Hey everybody, we're going to be out and about in the month of March. Starting this Saturday, March 3rd from 3 to 6 p.m. at the Triangle Wine Company Waverly Place location in Cary. That's right, Cary's popping off, and we will be there to hack your party. Learn how to mix cocktails in 3 easy steps. Learn how to make charcuterie, pâté, and rillettes, and also effectively pair wine with food. That's this weekend, March 3rd from 3 to 6. You can buy tickets at eventbrite.com or just hit up our website for all the links. That's ncfbpodcast.com. We'll see you there. And join us later this month, March 22nd through the 25th, in the Outer Banks for the 2018 OBX Taste of the Beach Festival. It's a 4-day event with tons of food and wine and drink. We're going to be there as judges. We're going to cover the whole thing. It's going to be amazing. There's barbecue showdowns. There's a chowder cook-off. There's a grand tasting. There'll be phenomenal wine and beer and drinks. Amazing food. It's a great festival. So go to obxtasteofthebeach.com for tickets. You can buy individual tickets. You can get ones under $30. You can buy package deals. It's really fun. Great way to spend time with the family.
You're listening to the NCF&B Podcast, part of the OG Podcast Network. The NCF&B Podcast takes you behind the scenes of North Carolina's food and beverage industry. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NCFBpod. This episode sponsored in part by Food Scene. That's foodseen.com. Providing professional photography, social media management, video production, and website design. And now, enjoy the show.
Thank you for listening to the NCF&B Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today in studio, we have the personification of wine and food, as we have another dynamic duo of a chef and beverage team. We have the Howells, Mr. and Chef Scott Howell and Aubrey Zinaich-Howell in studio. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so of the very famous Nana's in Durham and Bar Virgile and Nana Taco, which has been mentioned numerous times. And I actually, as a matter of fact, I just had last night, so thank you.
Who, by the way, is 101.
Oh my goodness!
Nana
but she's
holy cow.
She's in hospice right now, so it's 101.
Wow,
she made it, and still, if she talked to her on the telephone, you wouldn't know.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, she was alive when World War I was happening.
Yeah,
dude, the story she told me about Franklin Delano Roosevelt and shit like that. You know, she said to me, and she was in Waynesville, right? And she said everybody in Waynesville, when she was a little girl, were told to go out to the road. So the entire town is on this one road, 1923, which goes to Asheville, which when I was a little kid, that's what the road you took to Asheville before 40 was there, right? Anyway, all of a sudden somebody starts coming through in a convertible waving, and it's Franklin Delano Roosevelt, I think.
In Waynesville, North Carolina?
The thing that he was getting ready to do was establish the Pisgah National Forest. That's what he was coming to do. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy, because that's still like, what, 13, at least a decade before he was president, so he was a young senator or something at that time.
I had no idea. She just talked about it like it was yesterday, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So what is Nana's name?
Anna Howell.
Nana, really?
Anna. Well, I've only called her Nana my whole lifetime, but her name's Anna. Yeah.
And she's, you said your maternal grandmother.
She's on my father's side. Yeah.
Paternal. And so the story goes that when you were 12, I think your parents split up, and you would go have dinners over there, and she was the huge culinary influence in your life.
Sundays was always a big day.
Yeah.
You know, we always had Sunday lunch.
Okay.
I mean,
well, don't they call that supper?
No, not in East Tennessee.
Okay.
Lunch. But I always thought the cornbread was supposed to be served in a cast iron, really hot. You cut wedges out.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, when she finally moved into a assisted living home, all of her cookware came to us, and you just could not even imagine how magnificent these cast iron skillets were. I mean, I put them away just like in a drawer, and I was like, we are not using these, because I wasn't even sure how I would mess them up or he would mess them up. They're the most perfect cast iron skillets you've ever seen. I don't think anything actually ever touched them except for bacon grease and cornmeal and water.
And little Scotty's dirty hands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask a technical question
It's
for a second.
amazing.
So, cast iron skillets, you're not supposed to wash them, right? You're just supposed to, like, dry them, right? Is that properly?
Well, Nana.
Yeah.
Just to give you the thumbs up, the deal on that. Well, how is she? I don't know. I mean, you think about it. For probably 75 years, she made cornbread in that pan. All she would do when it was done, right? She'd get it really hot with bacon. Then she'd pour the stuff in there to get nice and crusty. She turned it out on a plate, cut it into wedges, wiped it out with her. I remember when they came out, she was so excited about paper towels.
I'm still excited about
I am
paper
too.
towels.
I love paper towels. I probably shouldn't, but I love them.
Her whole
And the Brawny
gig-
Man's pretty handsome.
She didn't like throwing them away. She'd rinse them out, squash them, and set them up I'm telling you, she'd take one of those, set it in the thing, and put it underneath. That's all she ever did. She
Okay.
never saw water.
It came with a paper towel.
So what if
It came with it. It still has the.
when you got it, you
Yes,
mean when it came to your house.
still has the paper towel.
The same one that you would wipe it out
Yes.
with.
But what happens when you're not like a brilliant chef or a cook and you're like me and you make mistakes and you burn something a little bit in the pan? Now you got to like really scrape it. I'll get the back end of a metal spatula and just like, which I imagine would put Anna Nana in a cardiac arrest if she were to see me doing that.
Because she didn't have that problem.
How do you get all that stuff off if you make mistakes?
Salt.
Well, she didn't make mistakes.
She didn't make mistakes. This
Not
pan
in
is
that
perfect.
pan, anyway.
Yeah.
This pan is so perfect. That's why I was like, we are never using this pan. This pan will never see the light of day.
I argue you should use it all the time because that's what the purpose
tell you.
is.
Yeah, but we
But I
are.
don't
In the
think-
Durham
I still-
Culinary Museum.
We have not
I still
perfected.
think the only thing
no
that ought to
one
go in is cornbread,
Yes,
though.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
a cornbread only. It's a bacon grease cornbread only pan.
That's awesome. Well,
Let's delve into this because
Okay.
you guys are obviously accomplished restaurateurs, and it's your the dossier of your restaurants speaks for themselves. But people to connect the dots. Ben Barker mentioned you a lot on the show. You're a trained chef. You went to Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. You've worked all over the world. You've worked for Nancy Silverton. The list goes on.
Boulay,
And we are former.
Matt
We
worked there
have
too.
some similarities on our resume. Working with Dave Boulay, and we could talk about that later.
Oh,
I'm sure you have
that's
some
awesome.
fun stories.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, but brilliant.
He was just here.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he was just
And he
here.
didn't call me?
He was just here. He called and he was like, "I need to talk to Scott. I need to know where I should go for that." My French accent. I speak French. It's so terrible.
You talking about Daniel Boulud?
No, David
No, she
Boulay.
doesn't speak like that.
I know, it's awful. And I speak French. I don't know where this like half
He doesn't
German.
talk like that. He
half-
talks like he's from Connecticut.
Yeah.
He's like, he came and he's like, "I need to know where I should go for lunch. Where's Scott?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Like he came into the restaurant and was like,
No,
or
he
called.
was called. He called, yeah.
Tell him to download the Curate app.
Hey.
Actually, I didn't answer the phone, or I would have told him where he should have lunch. But anyway,
He should. I'll have to call him and be like, dude, next time you're in town, call
Yeah.
me. Anyway,
Yeah.
He's selling pots now.
he's selling pot now.
he's selling weed.
Yeah.
David Boulay is just like straight up selling
Do you know
marijuana.
that would not would that shock you? Like especially if it
No.
was pot. I mean that would
If it
not.
were, like-
When
out
did
of the-
you work for?
in 2007, going into 2008, right before like the recession hit big time.
In the Orange restaurant down there.
Oh,
the
that was
Orange
beautiful.
Yeah, so it was fun to pair wines there for
Yeah.
a long
Oh,
time,
I
and I'm
bet.
sure you had fun cooking there. But then you were out, I guess, in California at the time, and you get a call from Mr. Ben Barker.
That's right.
To
So,
say,
yeah, and when you were in California, you were working at the Malibu Adobe. Is that right?
Yeah,
Well,
Melvin.
now that was the first trip.
Because that's
That was
I mean,
the first trip. That was a
don't-
long time.
That's like not old. That's like 80s Hollywood cool spot. Like, which
you-
is so funny.
Well, I mean, you'll love this.
Oh, this is a great story.
My first day of work, my boy Jeff Starr, who used to work for Mark Miller.
Okay.
Again, maybe you weren't born, but the first day, and he says, "We've got a big party. You're going to be on the grill outside." And I'm like, "Well, who is it, man?" He's like, "I can't tell you." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know anybody." Why would I say anything? I've
I'm
been
just gonna be on the grill here.
I've been sworn not to, and all of a sudden, it started, right? And I mean, even from my first day, everybody in LA, and everybody in Malibu, obviously, was coming to this party. I mean, it was just like there they were. They were all right there. And then finally, the limos for the people that are getting married are coming through there, right? And it was Bruce and Demi when they first got married. First one.
Yeah.
It was their wedding reception was at the Dobie.
Yeah, so Jonathan Waxman was an original consultant with that place, and you worked for Waxman.
That's how I got the job, yeah.
Yeah, you worked with him at Jams.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of history at the Adobe, and that's up there, like Cross Creek Village, next to Pepperdine. That's where my wife went to school, Pepperdine. And
she would know it pretty well. Then.
Yeah, that's our old stomping grounds. And
we went up there this past summer. I
had to take him around.
Yeah, we just drove in. It was really beautiful.
That's a
really
surreal place to live and work because it's nothing like...
It certainly was 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that one omelet parlor there, that was it.
Right.
There was nothing in Malibu.
Yeah.
Don't you have the Jeffries on the ocean there? Joffrey's, yeah. Which is like you have to drive by 3 times to find it.
Yes.
You know?
That place has probably got some stories to tell.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I can only imagine. Yeah,
that spawned a whole Los Angeles connection. Josiah Citrine. There's like a whole connection. This is like a Scott Howell connection of chefs that go from Joffrey's, which is pretty amazing. But let's get back to you. You spent some time in California, but then you brought yourself back, and Ben came a calling to open up Magnolia, and he wanted you to be his sous chef. Is that correct?
No. Walter Royal, the chef at the Angus Barn now, and has been forever, was doing a new restaurant downtown.
Downtown Durham?
In downtown Durham, where the chicken and waffle place is now.
Where Dane's
Chicken and Waffle.
Okay.
And it was like the first guy that stepped out, and they were good cooks. They were really good cooks, but I don't think the business model, and I don't think downtown Durham was ready for it. But Walter was the first sous chef, so I was the second sous chef there.
And you knew Walter, or he just knew you by reputation?
Well, it was funny. My best friend, who's in Raleigh, used to be a waiter for Ben in the first couple of years, right? And then he ended up working for...
We got to give a shout out to Rich Adams, because Rich Adams is like an integral part of the whole
He really
story.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, and plus him and I have driven across the United States twice.
And
together,
Rich Adams has done every single one of our business logos.
Well, he said...
Hey, Rich.
Hey, Rich, what's up?
Rich said, you got to meet this guy. You'll really like him. So he took me to dinner there.
He told you to meet Walter, or he told you to meet,
Ben.
He told you to meet Ben. Okay.
And so I had met Ben, like over the holidays or something one time, and then, later reached out to me, said, "Do you want?" And I was working right next to Nancy Silverton at Campanile.
Yeah.
At that time.
Campanile and
La Brea Bakery. And La Brea Bakery was that was La Brea Bakery. That's where it
enormous.
started.
Right.
Oh, I
That's
mean,
crazy.
they never. The only thing that would be there at like 3:00, because the bakery sold out every day, was the onion anchovy loaf, like focaccia. And I would always eyeball it to see if. And I ate that thing so many times. Nobody would get it. She'd say, "You can have that."
Yeah, everybody else in LA would be too self-conscious to have anchovy breasts in it. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. That lady is a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to get a little juicier though, because Ben was because Ben doesn't hold back, and we were speaking to him at Mercado at his son's place, both of their places, and we even have him on camera. So we're talking to him.
Did he cry?
He got misty.
Yeah.
It was a little dust in the air.
Yeah.
And so. Prideful dust, because speaking about his son and all the great things he's doing.
Yeah.
But we start talking, and it's great because he's saying, "Oh yeah, Scott and I worked really well together. We did this together, and then we decided to open up Pops together." And then he's like, "And then I had to get out of there because Scott was thinking this and I was thinking this, and it didn't make sense. I had to move on." And it was pretty straightforward. And I went, "Oh, that's kind of juicy, I guess to say." So
we were supposed to open a bunch of restaurants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did he tell you what their partnership business name was?
No.
It was really cool. Their LLC was called Magnanimous.
Magnanimous.
Magnanimous. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, he didn't tell us that. What he did say, though, is actually he did give you a lot of credit. He said before you got there that they would just put different proteins on the same set.
Yeah, like on a rice pilaf and a veg.
Yeah. But when you got there, you're like, I think we could do better.
Yeah.
Well, it was huge for both of us because I wanted to learn. I wanted to come back to North Carolina and make it different, and he let me.
Yeah,
that was the cool thing about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were some times when you kind of had to pull teeth. People don't like change, for the most part. But all of a sudden, that was the great thing about Ben Barker and myself is all you had to do was plant a seed in Ben Barker's brain.
Yeah,
and he was incredibly creative.
Yeah, so great.
Really smart, very knowledgeable. He just needed somebody that had seen some crazy shit like at Boulay.
Yeah.
I was there in the first year, so you're talking about.
Wow.
That was at Boulay. That was. I mean, you had to. I was in the middle. Boulay was the first guy. I'm in the middle. Kurt Gutenbrunner is from Valsay, was to the left of me.
He's a crazy dude.
Dan Silverman was absolutely the most foul-mouthed grill guy I've ever known in my life. So Dan Silverman ended up being Allison's on Dominic, and he did a couple things. I'm starting to go Lawrence Welke on you, but there was a guy named Craig Shelton who ended up at the Ryland Inn, was the first, and I know he was the first chef on Gourmet on the cover of Gourmet, right? And then the cat over in Garmager, who spoke very little English at all, ended up being the freaking chef at the Pierre Hotel. I mean, it was just like, holy shit. The pastry chef was Bill, the guy that just retired from the White House. Remember they made a big deal out of Bill retiring?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Bill retired, and then the guy that was working for him now lives in... the guy in Green...
How could you go back after Obama?
Yes.
What?
Well,
although Obama probably wasn't eating too many pastries,
I don't know. I think he was sneaking down there in the middle of the night and being like, "Bill, make me something good. I need a Charlotte."
Bill didn't want to work so hard, knowing that
Trump would be
appetite.
like,
he's
oh,
like,
man, I'm going to be working
all
around the
this
clock.
guy is gonna want is some nasty ass Twinkies,
right?
And how can I go back after this man, Barack Obama, has the most magnificent taste of any president ever?
Right, and then I'm gonna make you some industrials,
nasty
Twinkies. Yeah,
Bill, what I want from you is the most delicious donut ever.
That's good, man.
That was so good.
You've been working on that.
Oh my god, that was great. That was great.
We partnered up with Triangle Wine Company because these guys are awesome. They offer weekly wine tasting events, a wide range of wine and beers from around the world, and an easy online store to find the wines that you'd like. They also offer pickup, local delivery, and shipping. We even set up a promo code NCFB so you can receive 10% off all future purchases.
Go to trianglewineco.com or one of their 3 locations, and for $99, pick up the NCFNB 6-pack, which includes 3 white wines, 3 red wines, and we threw an official NCFNB hat in the bag.
So once again, buy your wine online or in-store at the Triangle Wine Company and use our promo code NCFB during checkout to receive 10% off your future wine and beer purchases. Go to trianglewineco.com or click the top of our website at ncfbpodcast.com.
Hi, this is Mike Coscarelli from Anxiety Now.
And Andrea Allen from the Hot Mess Comedy Hour.
We just launched the brand new OG Podcast Network and wanted to let you know that you can hear ours and other great shows by going to ogpodcastnetwork.com.
Also, be sure to follow the network on social media to keep up to date with new shows, videos, and live events.
That's at OG Podcasts on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Or you can subscribe to your favorite OG podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
It's funny. Back in the day, we had Andrea Weigel on the show. She's a phenomenal writer.
Badass.
Yeah, working with Vivian Howard, working for the production team that does A Chef's Life. And so I was reading, of course, on research, our research department, as we like to call it.
Yeah, they were up late last night. Working hard and all that. Kudos to Andrea, because I feel one of the best articles I've read about a person's life in this area was written by her about you, Chef Scott. And so it's the true story of a chef's chef. And that was back in 2016. You know, a lot of times you're doing research, you need to read like 7 or 8 or 9, 10 articles on someone to like kind of get who this person is. And Andrea just
put it together. And Matt and
so
I talked about
concisely and so well.
yeah, like I learned so much about you all in this moment. I mean, even like tears in my eyes thinking about it, like just cool stuff. And so, but also Matt and I talk about, we don't always want to just have the same conversation that everybody has. And your story is well documented. And if anyone doesn't know your story, read Andrea's article online because it's phenomenal, as I mentioned.
A great writer.
But she gets into it about your history, where you went and where you've gone. But then she, is talking about all the things that have happened in your life. And there's been some interesting things and there's been some emotional things that have happened. Of course, you were in a horrific accident a few years back, and then there have been struggles that have happened since then. And not to like turn the story so quick and hard, but these are things that I would love to hear out of your words. And I think people in the community would love to hear from you. As we were speaking, or as I mentioned, you were in an accident of a charcoal
1,500 pounds of love.
1,500 pound grill that was coming off a truck that, for a good reason, didn't completely hit you, but it did mangle your leg in a horrific accident that rendered you in a bed for 6 months and essentially not walking for about a year. So, I mean, but from your own, I don't mean to take it so directed into that point, but I want to hear, like, what was going on in your life at that very moment, and like, where did you go from?
She wasn't working at Nana's quite yet. She was going to come on at the first of the year. And
No. It was about... I was about a week out from starting at Nana's, maybe 2 weeks out. It was right before Thanksgiving. I was training my replacement, actually, at Empire.
At Empire, which is a wine distributor in the
right,
area. Yeah.
Right. When it happened, and we had fortunately made all of the transitions with like I don't want to say power of attorney stuff, but we had made all the transitions with all of the accounts and everything, so everybody knew who I was, and I had signatures, and I could do all of that kind of stuff with the business.
Yeah, you were coming on fully as a partner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was pretty fortunate that had all taken place when this happened, because it I immediately stopped working at the company at Empire, and my boss was like extraordinarily generous with me.
Was that Maureen?
No, Nelson.
Okay.
Nelson. I mean, Maureen, yeah, is awesome, but Nelson really took care of me, and I think ended up paying me for like 2 weeks of like sort of severance, or I don't even remember. He just was like, you take care of whatever you need to do, and I took care of like whatever I needed to do for them. And
let's paint the picture too, because at this very moment, actually, the reason you were getting this big charcoal grill was because you were opening new restaurants. This is a time when you were opening Nana Steak and Nana Taco, I believe. These were all
Nana Taco was already open.
So there were like 16 plates being spun at this time, as opposed to just dealing with the singular restaurant.
Right.
So you had a lot going on in your life.
And I had to have that grill,
He had to have that grill.
Because it was a little bit bigger than everybody else's Montague. You know what I'm saying? Montague charcoal, it gets all the cooking kills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had to have that grill. And we were in the middle of talking about doing some other things. And
I got to ask, when it fell on you, not to get so into the moment, but when it fell on you, was it on you, and how did it get off of you? How long was that on you?
Oh my!
It bounced.
Okay, so it essentially crushed your leg and bounced off.
Yeah.
Well, my foot was stuck under it for a while, but I never felt it. Never once.
Because your leg just goes numb.
He was in instant shock.
Shock, yeah.
He was in instant shock.
Yeah, I didn't feel anything until they got me on the ambulance and started messing with me.
Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. They came and got me right away. I was actually at Nana Taco.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Training my replacement. We were having lunch. They came and got me right away. He was laying on the ground. It was cold because it was November. He didn't have a jacket on. He's white, right? His best friend, one of his best friends at the time, is like holding his leg together, basically. And they're all like, don't tell him. Don't tell him.
Right.
Well, I said to my buddy,
don't tell him.
I said, man, is it a Joe Theismann? He says, no. You've definitely broken your leg,
And he had like a crack, and the ambulance is not coming. It's like the longest ambulance wait I've ever.
15 minutes for God's
sake. Yeah, but that 15 minutes feels like hours.
Yeah. Right. And it was like a crack team of ambulance people. I'm telling you, it was like 3 people, and it was 2 new people. And I'm not trying to be like negative, but they could not get a vein to give him any sort of right. They couldn't get a vein, and so finally they get a vein and give him morphine and get him into the back of the ambulance. And I am telling you this, they did not know how to get to Duke. I had to give them directions. I had to get in the front. I got in the front of the ambulance and gave them directions to get to Duke.
I guess the Waze app hadn't been developed at this point.
No, this is, I don't know.
It's 2013,
how
right?
do you not know how to get to Duke?
Yeah.
Well, December 1st now. I was flying to New York December 3rd, actually.
Yeah.
I was going to be on Beatdown.
He was going to battle
December 1st,
Bobby
and you were
Flay.
supposed to go to New York on December 3rd.
No, it happened the week, if it happened the very week before
he was supposed to
Thanksgiving.
go that weekend to Myrtle Beach with Rich Adams, who we've spoken about, to play golf.
Okay.
And he's like, just tell Rich I'll be there. I'm going to get cast on this, and I'm
still
going
leaving in the morning.
And I'm leaving in the morning. I'm going to Myrtle Beach, and I was like, you are not fucking going to Myrtle Beach.
30 hours later, I woke up.
It was the most horrific thing I have ever seen in my entire life. His leg was perpendicular to, it was from the middle of his leg, it was perpendicular to his body. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Fortunately, we get to Duke and he's fed half of the doctors in the emergency room at some point, and they're all like, "Oh my god!"
Not at this moment, but previous.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because they dined at Nana's. Yeah.
Exactly, they've all dined at Nana's. And then it turns out that the chief trauma doctor is out of the country. He's in Germany, and but the next guy came and did an emergency surgery on him that night because they were really, really worried.
No, they put me asleep. They didn't
that was going to get. Well, they put him.
I don't know.
They were really worried about the infection because it was completely broken in half and the bone marrow was exposed right to the air. So they did the surgery to kind of close it up, and then the next day they're like, "Oh, Dr. Zura's here. Dr. Zura's here. He's here. He's back from Germany. He came straight here." And I was like, okay, that's great. And in the door walks our fucking neighbor, Dr. Zura. And I was like,
they had just moved in.
They had just moved in. And I was like,
3 doors down.
And I was like, holy shit. And I felt so amazed and secure and happy that our neighbor doctors, I had no idea that he was a doctor.
You knew Dr. Zura, you knew him as just your neighbor. What's his first name? Bill.
Bob.
Look at that. I was pretty close. But so Bob just has the grass he doesn't cut very often and leaves his recycling out too long. That's all you knew about that guy.
I had no idea they had
Not that he was the greatest doctor.
Wife, no, had no idea. No idea that he was the chief surgeon of the trauma department at Duke, orthopedic trauma department. Had no idea, just knew he and his wife who came and sat at the bar at Nana's and had dinner, and they're our neighbors. Yeah. No idea that
you got to be great friends with him.
Yeah, I went over at I just went over every Friday night and had dinner and cooked dinner for them. They're like, we never eat mushrooms, but will you buy some mushrooms and cook for us? And yes. And we became the best friends after that. It was
think
amazing.
about the doctor's perspective. And this doctor is this is my neighbor, this is a friend of mine. But more importantly, this guy cooks some really goddamn good food.
Yeah.
If I don't do this right, I may never have that risotto again.
Yeah.
I'm making light, but not really. It's
extra sense of urgency.
But this is the thing with surgeons. Surgeons don't, they don't even think about that.
Right.
They're just like, I can do this.
This is the job.
This is the job. That's why they're surgeons.
Yeah.
Right.
This is broken in here. I need to fix that
get
here.
It done. Yeah. And then he had this posse. So he walks in the door and then 20 people walk in behind them. They're all kowtowing. Yes, Dr. Zura. Yes, Dr. Zura. Oh, yes, Dr. Zura. Oh, Dr. Zura. Yes.
One guy going, yeah, boy.
Yeah, exactly. They're
just figured a big posse. I thought
it was yes, it was totally like that. He's got guys beatboxing him, and it was crazy. Yes, it was totally like that. He does the surgery. After that, the next day.
So this is the second surgery.
This was
because they had emergency surgery and then a
second surgery. Then he has to have another surgery, which is a plastic surgery, because he had basically, when his foot got stuck under the thing, it scraped off all the skin.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I hope no one's eating while they're listening to this episode.
So there was no skin on his ankle, and because of that,
where did it go?
It was an open wound. They had to take, if you ever see the back of his leg, we call him shark bite because it looks
the pictures are well documented.
It's amazing. So they did what's called a sural flap. They cut out a chunk of his calf and lifted it up with all of the blood vessels and everything still attached. The one of the head plastic guys, Dr. Detlef Erdman, who was also like a really close personal friend now too, took that, moved it down to his ankle and covered up that wound. Right,
like a full skin graft,
a full, and then they did more skin grafts. You wouldn't even believe, like his whole thigh. He's got a whole chunk that's probably like 18 inches by 5 inches off of his thigh to cover the rest of it. It's amazing.
This is like
he's a medical miracle.
He's like the Darth Vader of the kitchen.
Yeah,
right.
You've been put back together, Bionic Man.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It sucks. It still hurts.
Yeah.
Does it still? Do you have some problems with
Well,
that?
I had some trouble the last few days. If I work hard or like I was shoveling some stuff, I'm going to pay for it,
Yeah.
But after a while, you just get crazy that you can't do anything. So.
Well, there's stairs to get up and down into this place, and you were walking fine. Like that, you don't have like. Do you walk? Is your gait fine now?
My gait's better.
Yeah, he had to walk with a cane for a couple years, but now it's
can't really run all that great.
Yeah.
Not a runner anymore. But I mean, after that,
because you were doing a lot of running before that, I imagine.
Around the kitchen.
Yeah, he was a real runner.
Yeah,
he ran. He jogged a lot.
Always
he
running.
said, the doctor says, well, you're probably not going to run in a marathon again. Well, there you go.
Yeah, shucks.
Gosh, hate that I'm missing that. Right. Misery.
Yeah, no, sorry guys. Remember that marathon I was going to do? No, can't do it. So, I mean, obviously this situation is horrific. One totally random question: did Nana's stay open that night?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes. So I mean, in all of this, I managed to keep all of this from the public for months.
But like, obviously, you had to tell your staff members and people like that, but nobody else knew.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody else knew.
Wow. So I mean, was this like? Did you have a meeting in the restaurant, like a little pre-shift meeting, like everybody?
No.
So Scott is
no. Not at first.
And you weren't, I mean, people knew you, but you weren't really involved at that point. Like, you had just come on.
I had just taken over. Yeah, I'd just come on, and the transition was happening, but it had not happened yet.
Wow.
So I managed to keep it really, really tight for the first while.
That must have been hard on you. I mean, seriously, like, not to get too sappy, but like emotionally, like, you can't tell people that you're working with or even people that are coming in. Like, that's a lot to hold in.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nana's has always had an amazing staff.
Yeah.
And at the time, Tyler, who is now the chef at Nana's Steak and our business partner, was the chef, the sous chef at Nana's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was like my rock. And he and I worked and have always worked really well together. And he helped keep it together.
Yeah.
And that's really how we managed to keep the whole thing running so smoothly. Because Tyler...
I mean, I won Chef of the Year and I didn't, and I was on my back.
Tyler knew exactly what to do.
I was going to say, because you've been nominated 8 times for Best Chef of the Year, semifinalist.
Well, it's funny that Ben Barker mentioned that he was the Susan Lucci, because we always say that Scott is the Susan Lucci.
You're the shared Susan Lucci. One's Susan, one's Lucci.
Right.
I don't know who's who.
You're all my children.
Ooh, we'll be here all week.
But Scott, you were quoted as saying that during this time, you kind of felt like you lost your direction. You weren't the man anymore, quote unquote, the man. Perhaps feeling some misery that where, in fact, Nana's was still running in your absence, and all your other businesses were able to operate at a high level while you were out of commission. And we'll get into rehab and group therapy and things that you've talked about, but ultimately, how you've ultimately decided to let your vulnerability show and come from there. But I, in reading this, kind of thought about something. Help, quote unquote, is in its most stripped down form has been the key to your success over the years. If you think about it, there are videos, there are tribute dinners, there are articles that have comprised of people that have not only learned from you, but quote unquote helped mold the empire that you have created. So is it fair to say that this accident ultimately made you realize the impact you had on your team to effectively run the business without you?
Well, I will say that Aubrey stepped in and didn't even blink, which was enormous. But what I was kind of proud of, honestly, was that the systems were there. And at that point, the people respected the systems. It's not a place where you freelance.
Right.
You can't freelance when you're trying to keep consistency in something, right? And you're doing 200 plus all the time. And I just think that was the thing. You know, of course I was a little vocal in the old days, but I was consistent. And I think that's when it all went down, they all realized they had a system, and they knew the system, and now we got to run the system. Mm-hmm. And that was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that was huge.
Brad and Graham
they believed in the system. They believed in me, which was cool.
Brad and Graham were still at Nana's at that time, our business partners at Nana Steak as well, and they just kept everything going too. So for a while, I mean, I don't think either of us were able to really be at Nana's when that happened. I don't think probably for the first 2 weeks or so I even stepped foot in Nana's. I did all of the stuff that all the payroll and stuff from my laptop, but they kept it going, chin up, brave face.
It's kind of the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles. Carson Wentz going down and Nick Foles taking the championship. I mean, you won Chef of the year you go down.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's very similar to that.
Yeah, it's
very similar.
I hate to give the Eagles a shout out, but yeah, it's a good analogy.
Are you a Giants guy or something?
Yeah, exactly. I think I've seen you with a Giants hat on once or twice also.
Come on, the Eagles and the Giants have a thing in common. They both put Brady on his ass.
Well, yeah. And also won Super Bowls with a backup quarterback.
Yeah. Not yet, Jeff Hostetler.
Yeah, exactly.
Former Raider.
Yeah.
That's my team.
Oh my God.
Groom's back, baby. Groom's back.
I love it. I love it because when you guys are saying that, all I hear is sportsing.
I think that's the cool thing that happened out of it all was that people developed because they had to.
Right, next man up. That you have to do it,
and everybody believed in what was going on there.
Yeah.
And that's the problem was the systems. That's a weird thing to say. The systems were really great, So when I went down, it worked, and then all of a sudden I came back, and what am I going to do? Because I couldn't walk for a year. Like I thought it was a joke. The guy tells me, you're not going to walk for a year, and I said, "That's not.
Watch me.
That's horseshit."
Yeah,
I'm up in 6 months, right? I'm up in 6 months, no problem. There were certain points of the injury and the time that sucked, and in 6 months, it was incredibly obvious that was not going to happen, and it was going to be a year, and it crushed me,
Yeah,
but I mean, you're eating so much Oxycontin and Dilaudid, it's like candy. And that's, I never was a pill guy. I smoked freaking pounds of pot, but I've never been a pill guy, right? And
that you bought from David Boulay.
Duh.
I was too scared to buy pot in New York. Can you believe that?
He didn't want to go to Rikers.
Yeah.
He totally didn't want to go to
Washington
Rikers.
Square, and people would be just like, da-da-da-da.
Oh, you don't want to smoke that, though.
No.
Anyway, I think that's...
I mean, that would be crushing to anybody, just the injury alone being off your feet.
That's all you've done for 22 years is what you did.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you can't do it anymore. And, when you go through all those surgeries and all that anesthesia and all the drugs, I mean, it literally took me 3.5 years to get my brain to where I felt like it was back. And it was only about this last summer.
Yeah.
And how do you feel what was the impetus to finally stop doing that? Like, did you just realize the only way I'm going to get some clarity is if I just kind of cut it out at all?
Oh no, I wasn't doing any drugs. I mean,
I mean the oxycodone and those things.
I mean that oxy and all that stuff stopped when I got out of bed, so to speak. But I took boatloads of Tylenol 3 or whatever that one Tylenol 3 was. What, didn't I?
He doesn't quite understand the different levels of narcotics still to this day. I mean, that's okay, but he ended up going to rehab.
I lost my mind.
He did, yeah.
I had a nervous breakdown. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you can say what you want about drugs and alcohol, but if I was self-medicating at that point, I'd open Barber Gilles, and you will appreciate this. I was a vodka guy and scotch guy, right? Well, the premise of a cocktail bar really has an enormous amount to do with gin.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great mixer.
Gin's the big, in my opinion, one of the big mixers. And so I had to taste all the gin drinks, of course. And then, boy, that wasn't it even better why don't I just take one of those Delighteds and drive home?
Oh.
I mean, yeah, it was...
Oh, mixing is no joke. There have been times where, I had pain medicine, and then you have a cocktail, and it's just, there's no joke. I mean, that's how Chris Cornell passed away. I mean, it's like, there's some...
I really did not even know what happened to me probably for a year.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, if you're looking for something really fun to do in Chapel Hill on the weekend of March 23rd and 24th, author and butcher Meredith Lee, former guest of the show, is going to be in Chapel Hill doing the Triangle Charcuterie Intensive Workshop. It's a 2-day class. From fresh sausages, pâtés, hard salamis, prosciutto, anyone can create these artisanal foods in the comfort of their own home. And so, at a private residence, Meredith Lee will be teaching everybody. She's starting with half a hog, and the class members and she will spend 2 days producing a diverse array of charcuterie recipes. This event is open to the public and will be held from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily on the weekend of March 23rd and 24th. Register online at Merrileigh Food. That's MERELEIGH food.com. MerrileighFood.com/books/triangle for this unique event. You will have an excellent time. And let her know that the boys at the NCF&B podcast sent you. Prior to the accident, though, we talk about restaurant life, chef life. It's always, there's this machismo thing that's going on about working really long hours and working hard, playing hard. Where were you before the badass 1,500-pound charcoal grill?
Well, I was with her.
We were, recently married.
Were we married at that point?
We were, yeah. We were. we were married. Yeah. We were about to celebrate our 1-year anniversary. Yeah.
But were you having these difficult? I mean, it's a struggle. We know this is every husband and wife that's in the business, especially when you're. Actually, I think it might be worse if one's in it and one's not, because you don't understand maybe the way it is. But you were both effectively in this business, but the really long hours and not seeing people.
That's not something that was ever an issue for us, because both of us had been in the restaurant business for so long. I mean, I've been working in the restaurant business. Well, I started working in the restaurant business when I was 15 at the Dairy Queen. I learned how to deep fry everything you could possibly imagine deep fried. Hot dogs,
chocolate covered bananas,
look, I can make you a dilly bar right now.
Dilly.
But after that, I was working in the restaurant business, and I worked from 19 onward. I worked for Brad at Elaine's. I worked as a cook for him, and then I worked for Scott briefly before he fired me, because that was a long story. That's the only job I've ever been fired from.
What did she do?
In 1999.
She'd taken another job with Brett.
I took the job with Brett.
You're not quitting. You're fired.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm going to give you a month's.
The worst mistake you'll ever make. There you go.
I'm going to give you a month's notice, and he's like, "You are making the biggest you're fired. You're making biggest goddamn mistake."
Oh my God, I didn't know your voice could get that high.
I know, it's amazing.
Were you two seeing each other at that time?
No.
This was just professional relationship at this point.
Yeah, it was just professional.
Yeah. So interesting, but
and then
that you got married later. I imagine there was a little bit of you're leaving me.
We talked about that.
There had to have been some emotions.
We talked about that later. It would never have worked out between us at the time. He was still young and sowing his wild oats, and I still had a lot of fucking up to do. But I mean, for us, it wasn't I wasn't calling him looking for him at 11 o'clock at night, because I know what the restaurant industry is like. Whatever. It's not a big deal. It wasn't a big deal for me. For us, it just never was an issue.
Well, that was a hard thing for me, though, because I really wanted to be married, Yeah. And I really loved Aubrey. I love Aubrey. But I carried an enormous amount of guilt at that time, because I wanted to be married. I wanted to see Redmond before he went to sleep. And, for me to get out of there at 8 or 8:30 felt weird. And like I was taking advantage of people around me. They were working more than I was, type of a thing, That was a struggle for me. Letting the reins go was a real struggle. It really took something like 1,500 pounds to put
to
me
change your
down.
life. Yeah.
Well, the sad part is it's
I'm
not
not sure it wasn't a good thing. In the end.
Well, I asked that. I actually had this question written down. Is like, picture your life for a second. If right now, if that 1,500-pound grill had never fallen on you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was going in a good direction, but
It's almost like a.
I was plowing through people.
It's almost like
I
a
don't
Christmas
know.
story
I
moment.
mean,
like
people worked there a long time, but I'm
I
just
don't
saying to
know.
you, I didn't take any shit. And, but the thing that worked for me forever, and I will say this, is even if I lost my mind on somebody during service, was we always took 5 minutes at the end of the shift. I'd say, man, can you give me 5 minutes? And I wouldn't apologize, but we'd talk about it.
Right.
And then I would say, I did take that too far. I'm sorry. But
well, that's an
that's
apology.
how guys worked for me. Well, I'm just saying that's how guys worked for me for 5 years or more, is that they knew that it was in the heat of the moment, and we'd talk about it when it was over with. And when we did that, it was just the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. And I think that's one of the reasons why when I went down, those people they believed in me.
Yeah.
And thank goodness, and
So
they
are we-
believed in the restaurant, what was going on there.
So, but what we're getting at is that now things are a little different for you in the kitchen. What is like work life right now? I mean, do you go to kitchen? Do you work a good amount of hours in the kitchen now?
No, it's difficult for me right now.
I mean, things have been. We're in a big transition right now. Obviously, we've been.
I had to rebuild Nana's when Nana's Steak opened because everybody went over.
Everybody was like, "I want to go open a new restaurant." You like how my voice gets really high. When I'm like,
But you mean even your staff?
yeah, a lot of people wanted to go and experience what it's like to do an opening, right? And we had a lot of.
They took all the good guys.
They took.
Right.
They took. I mean,
It took me
Tyler.
8 months to rebuild.
It took a long time.
I thought I was going to die.
It took a long time to get back up and running, and the two of
I
us
was
personally have gone through so much, even over the past 6 months to a year. And so, just us personally going through all of these struggles and figuring out what our relationship is like now, and how are we running our businesses, and how are we managing our personal lives, and just coming to this like new point in our lives, the two of us. That's hard.
So to put that out there, because it has been written, it's not a secret. You guys had separated in August, so personally, but decided to keep going. And I don't want to get like again, too sappy, like we're about food, but I mean, there's obviously a lot of mutual respect and admiration and love there, and there's a lot between you two, but I guess there's a decided to go forward as business partners in some respect now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
So you two are sitting here right now having being interviewed together, so that's all you need to know.
I think for both of us, we've experienced a lot of things. We've come to a lot of realizations. I think the accident had a profound effect not only on Scott, it had a profound effect on me. And, ultimately in the end, the only thing for me that exists in this entire world is, as sappy as it sounds, is love. And as difficult as it sometimes is, for me and for Scott, we may not be able to live as married people any longer, but we still have ultimately love and respect for each other. And we are amazing business partners, and we're amazing partners too.
Yeah.
So we share the same goals, and we share a lot of the same beliefs and the same amount of respect for each other. So it works, as difficult as it has been to negotiate where these things are going, and there's a lot of like emotions that are tied up with that. We do care about each other.
Well, I think we had a discussion, and that discussion was, we're going to make this restaurant as good as we can make it, and the restaurants that we have, we're going to make them as good as we can make it, and we had to have that first. So it is business with her and myself, the good thing about it is she really never told me what to do, and I never told her what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a system kind of in its own there. I mean, I would always...
Is that to say that you guys were of the same mind? Like you had
she did the
vision
She
going
did the front
forward?
of the house, she did the wine buying, she did all that. I took care of the kitchen at that.
Yeah,
so
we
it
never...
worked.
Division of power. You
Right,
weren't
we
making the
never
same decision.
interfered.
We
We
didn't
never
go over
interfered
it.
with each
Yeah, we
other's
didn't mess with each other.
responsibilities.
I mean, of course, occasionally I would go, why are we doing it this way?
I think the risotto's too salty.
Well, I mean,
I really think you need to buy this instead
you know,
of this.
and I really haven't talked about this, but right now they're giving me a lot of leeway.
Who's they?
People that work with us,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to say people that work for us. I think people that work with us.
Your team.
They're giving me a lot of leeway. I'm not on a schedule. It's I haven't been on a schedule for 4 years now, I guess. Well, those 8 months, I was on a schedule.
Yeah.
But that's tough, for me because, I knew where I worked. I knew what my job was. I knew it was to coordinate people, but I cooked, For years, I cooked and expedited at the same time. Well, you can't do that at Nana's anymore. You have to have an expediter and set the other. It just, for me, I can tell you when it's 8 o'clock at night. My leg tells me it's 8 o'clock at night. I mean, I can tell you when it's 8 o'clock on the freaking nose when it's 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like...
I can too, but that's because I get up at 4 a.m.
I mean, they're giving me leeway, and I appreciate it, and I know they're doing it right now because I need to get more involved. I know that, but I sometimes will walk in there and I'm ready to roll, and 15 minutes later I'll have so much anxiety that I've got to go outside. And I've never,
Well, and it's a shitty thing to like. Sometimes people say it's all in your head. It's all in your head. But we all know, we've all worked in this business, that it's not always in your head. In that there is that, again, going back to the expectation or this machismo of like working long hours. That if a chef or if a general manager or somebody takes 2 days off or has a vacation and then maybe 2 months later decides to take a weekend off. There's rumbling all around the restaurant. Oh, they're never here. Oh, I don't know. I guess I'm just running the place. The sous chef's getting angry, or the bar manager's like, I feel like I run the place because. Yeah. And I know because I was that asshole that would think that too at times. And everyone has gone through that. Whether you're the boss or you're the one looking up at the boss, you're like, there's this stupid mentality of saying it where it would be great if a third party could come in and say, you do realize that you're given the opportunity to run it because your boss or the person here before you has provided you and trusts you and respects believes you to make these decisions rather than looking at it in the opposite way. So I think perhaps because of your body of work and through the trauma that both physically, mentally, and all that you went through, hopefully I'm saying that your team kind of gets it. They need it. Not everybody has a chef that went through this trauma and they just, whatever. You get to a certain point, maybe you just get older and you're like, hey, man, I don't need to work the 16-hour days anymore. But there is this weird machismo thing that goes on in the business that, like, everyone expects everyone to be there at all times.
It drove me crazy. I mean, that's what I did not feel like I had a place anymore,
Yeah.
in my life. I mean, it was sudden there.
I have to say, it seems from just getting to know you that it's you're actually perfectly positioned to do this now because it's kind of akin, and Aubrey, I'm going to give a little sports analogy now, but it's like
sportsing.
But it's like when a star player now moves into the front office or moves into the broadcast booth or is a general manager, you're becoming more of the chef now moving into the restaurateur, but it's as if you've been perfectly set up to do that since the beginning. I mean, even Ashley Christensen is quoted as saying, you're not a chef maker, you're a creator of business owners. I'm paraphrasing. An owner maker, but that's the gist of the quote. And now that you have all these successful businesses, and not to mention that not only have you helped with the design of the menus, but you've also helped obviously with the hiring of the staff, but also the actual designs of the restaurant. I think you were integral in designing Bar Virgil.
Yeah, and Nana Steak.
So it kind of seems like you're perfectly set up to move into this front office, so to speak, or general manager.
Yeah, I never wanted to be called that, and everybody jokes about it. I never wanted to be called an executive chef.
Right.
They would call me an executive to fuck with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I said, just don't ever. I'm not one of those guys. I don't know how to do that because I I'm a working chef.
Right. The clipboard chef, the guy walking around
Yeah.
checking everyone's work as opposed to actually
Right.
putting something on heat or whatever and getting into it.
I mean, I didn't have time for that kind of shit.
And, I mean, even when we were still living together and we were talking about all of this, he really struggled with that concept still.
Yeah.
Even though that was essentially what he was moving towards, and even though that he's incredibly gifted at
Right.
that, and overseeing all this, like seeing the big picture of things, he's incredibly talented and gifted at that.
It's the machismo
Somewhere
guilt.
in his mind, he thinks that there's like he needs to stand over a stove and just grind it out
Yeah.
and sweat into the risotto every single night. And if he
That's what
doesn't,
makes it so good.
well, duh. But even if he's not doing that, like he thinks, even though it's not true, I'm just telling you, it's not true, that he's not doing his job. And then if he's not doing his job, he's not being fulfilled because, and there's
Yeah.
like,
I'm not sweating it out
I'm
and
not sweating it
exhausted
out. I'm
after
not
16
right.
hours.
I'm not sweating it
yeah.
out. So in some way, I haven't done this thing
Right.
that makes me worthwhile. And at some point, you have to, like, everybody transitions, everybody changes and grows, and there's new aspects and new creative parts of a job, right?
I didn't know how to go forward.
Yeah, it's hard to click send on an email and feel like super proud,
Right.
as opposed to
Oh, I click send on an email every day, and I feel amazeballs.
But I think this is a really important topic because I'm sure a lot of chefs feel the same way. And Max, you and I have talked about it to numerous guys, like especially with Mark Jacksina and this whole movement of people and chefs feeling still whole, not having to put in that enormous amount of work, and the idea of working smarter, not harder,
Yes.
is a new wave thing. But
I mean, look at what I looked at for years, though, and it happened quite often. People would open a restaurant and they would not cook.
yeah,
At the very most they would do is expedite. 6
Right,
months a
but-
year it'd go down, and you're wondering why it went down. Well, I mean,
Right, but there's a difference, and this is what we talk. This is what we knock around all the time. There's a difference between being that guy who has this single restaurant, who's like dialing it in, smoking cigarettes
I'm
on
the
the back.
director of operations.
Right.
You have one restaurant.
Right, exactly. Smoking cigarettes on the back porch while everybody's like doing the work, and somebody who is a visionary, and somebody who is like making something happen in a bigger picture, in a bigger way. And in that sense, that's what we always thought, what we always wanted for Durham, and what we really conceptualized for these businesses was to have something that we can be proud of with all of the 4 businesses, and something that would give back to Durham in a greater sense, something that would draw people in and give and put Durham on the map, and and bring other businesses to Durham that would help create this sense of community. And that is essentially what's happened. And so now what I'd love for Scott to do and take this role in is step into being that person. And for him, he still sees himself as this guy who should be in a white t-shirt and shorts, slaving it out over the fish station at Nana's. And there's a lot more opportunity, bigger things.
There's a couple
for
of ways
him.
to look at that, and I'll say, going back to when I used to work for Wolfgang Puck, he said one time he was going through a divorce, and he ultimately didn't divorce because they were talking about the business changing, and they were going to have to divide things up because Barbara was going to take this much and he was going to take that, and they finally just said, screw it, I don't need to be the CEO of my business anymore, because what made me successful was being a chef and a designer and a restaurateur, like conceptualizing. So he stepped down from being the CEO. He's like, I don't need to make financial decisions. I shouldn't be doing these things like HR. So I need people that know how to do that. And so he flipped it. They got rid of all the cafes, the simple stuff, the pizza, places. They went super high end and super low end. The canned food and the frozen pizzas and the WP, what is it? Like the Spagos and all the other things. And now he just opens restaurants. And now he just goes in and shows people. And he's like, I'm doing exactly what I know how to do in kind of the best way possible without having to work a fish station. I'm working a fish station with the new guy for a day and saying, these are the tricks of the trade. Make this restaurant dope, and then move on and go do the next thing. So I could see that's maybe where Scott has a lot of abilities, because he's
he, with many people, have done a lot of things to the community. Like we've talked about this tree, but I think some people should know that if they don't know, like some of the people that have worked in your team, like the Ferguson brothers, responsible for Q Shack, responsible for Rise, right? And the last
Durham
I checked,
Catering. Well, once Durham Catering Company.
right? And I mean, Rise has like 75, 80
something ridiculous,
franchises now, and them some good donuts. Yeah. Donald Trump would love those donuts.
I think it's 73 franchises.
73 at the time that article was written, so I wasn't sure if it expanded. But you've had your hand in a lot of this stuff, so I think you are maturing. You probably would have had to have done this anyways, no matter what had happened in your life.
Yes.
This is just a transition phase because people want more of the Howell. They want more of you.
Well,
you can only give so much in one kitchen.
The face. I'm the face, as she calls me. I'm the face of the franchise, so to speak.
Yeah.
This would have happened if whether or not the accident happened.
Yeah, eventually. Maybe it happened a little earlier.
Dealing with it either way.
Yeah.
Didn't Joe Theismann write a book? Speaking of which, no, it's next time my dad's in town, I'm gonna have it. You're gonna need to meet him because he struggles from the same thing. He's 73 years old and he still works 14-hour days, and it's like he's going to be in that office till the day he passes. Like he's so defined by he's a doctor and he's so defined by being a physician, and that same thing of like I have to grind it out. I love putting the pieces together, but it's like there's other things that he could do that also could be fulfilling rather than just grinding out the 14-hour days and being exhausted all the time.
When you've built your reputation on that, and it's what you are, and it's just that.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a lot of legitimacy to midlife crisis.
Yeah. Right.
It all happens, right? It all happens when you're 50. I just happen to have a freaking 1,500-pound grill drop on me when I'm 50, which really sucked.
And let it be written for the story. You're not 73. You're mid-50s right now.
54, yeah.
Yeah, my brother and you are the same age. You guys are young for purposes.
I just want to go on to the record by saying I am not 50.
She's not even
I'm not even 40. I just want to go.
Yeah.
I just want to say.
Yeah.
Baby over here.
Yes, he robbed the cradle.
It is
Forever 31.
It is interesting. I mean, we all have to do that. I mean, look at the guy that has French Laundry.
Thomas Keller. Yeah.
Well,
that guy.
Speaking back in the old days, nobody ever knew about the restaurant called Varick Street.
Mm-hmm.
That failed. Maybe it was there for a year, but that was his gig.
Yeah.
And then he went out California.
Crushed it.
Well, no, he failed again out in California. His lobster something or other. He failed again. I wasn't surprised, but he was just the first guy from New York who learned how to cook through all the old French guys. La Reserve was where Ballou and all those guys came out of. And he went to California, and don't get me wrong, but California is like Hollywood. So it's like all of a sudden he landed in the right place. He had all the vegetables and things that he could possibly ever want. And he was really, Wolfgang was, that was California.
They seized an opportunity and found a niche that really, which is now the common thing, the fresh produce, the local sourcing, farm to table idea is not, it's not niche anymore. It's the way food should just be consumed and processed and made. But they were forefront about that because of the availability of the region.
And food really hadn't exploded yet. Right. It was all a grill. Mm-hmm. It was all a grill in California.
Yeah.
In fact, their way of barbecuing is absolutely not at all
barbecue.
Like North Carolina barbecue.
Oh, yeah. As a Californian, I grew up saying barbecuing as that was our term.
Yeah, to grill.
It was only till maybe I was like 25 when I realized, it's not. No, this is grilling.
I was corrected the first year I moved here. They're like, excuse me, that's grilling.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Gas grill.
Slow and low, baby. Slow and low.
Okay.
What's moving forward? It seems like Nana Steak is off to a great, is really doing well.
Yeah.
Nana Taco, Nana's is 25 years plus and going strong.
Yeah.
So is there new stuff in the works?
I think we're doing some really great things for our local communities right now.
Yeah.
Scott's working on some amazing projects. We do the TROSA fundraiser annually, which we're both really proud of.
And
Scott,
she's on the board of a city now.
Yeah, I actually was nominated last year to the DCVB board, which is the local tourism authority for Durham. So I sit on
No wonder
them.
why David Boulay called you.
He was looking for Scott. He wasn't looking for me.
Well, he should have known better.
So I'm really excited about that because that is a way for me to help really bring new business and new and not just a local awareness to Durham, but a national awareness to Durham. So I sit on that board as the only restaurateur.
Which is a big part of the, think about it. I mean, Durham
is known as a food city, for sure.
So it's good that they've got somebody on there that can actually give them some correct information, so to speak, I think.
Right.
It's really, really exciting. And so, like I was saying, we do the TROSA fundraiser every year, which we do in October. And Scott organizes that entire fundraiser.
Where can you find information about that?
TROSA, you can find that on our Facebook page and then also on TROSA's website.
Is that TROSA?
TROSA. TROSA,
which is a rehab facility.
TROSA is a non-traditional, 12-step program. They help people who have substance abuse issues not only kick their substance abuse issues, but get back into the workplace. And it
Teach
is
them how to be people.
And it's like a 3-year program. Kevin McDonald is the founder. 2-year program, excuse me. Kevin McDonald is the founder. He is an inspiration. He's one of Scott's mentors. And so we do a big barbecue fundraiser and barbecue and bluegrass. And then annually we do a huge fundraiser with the Duke Cancer Patient Support Center. And we do that every year, every fall, usually the weekend before or the weekend after the TROSA fundraiser. And we've raised, at this point, over $250,000 for the Duke Patient Cancer Support Center. And then I'm doing a dinner in April called Feast of the Furnace, and it's a fundraiser for Liberty Arts, the Liberty Arts Foundation. I'm doing that with Elijah Lead, and that's going to be really exciting because Elijah is a local furniture maker, carpenter, and glass blower. And so I'm going to be cooking out of a glass blowing furnace while Elijah Lead does glass blowing demos.
That's cool. We had an idea like that with Matt Halliburton, who does Halliburton plates and ceramics, like cooking pizzas out of ceramic oven like that.
Pizzas in that 1,000-degree oven.
That's
awesome. It's crazy. That's kind of what this is going to be like. We did a dinner back last summer, except it was like 120 degrees in the studio and it was ridiculously hot. So this one is going to be a little bit nicer.
Well, you're big into yoga, which we didn't even get into.
Yeah.
Can't you do some Bikram yoga in that 120-degree oven?
That is not my style of yoga, but yeah.
Isn't that guy didn't we find out that he's a total creep too? The Bikram guy?
Yeah, he's a total creeper.
Does that discount though the whole theory about Bikram though?
It's still hot.
Okay.
I don't know. Bikram is still hot, but yeah, if you read, there's an amazing Vanity Fair article about that guy. He's a total creep.
Okay.
But Scott actually is helping me work out. We're hopefully going to open up a studio. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you have a webpage, a website about the yoga also, right? Where is that?
AubreyZinaich.com.
That's Zinaich.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a workshop coming up on March 24th.
And it's Kundalini
yoga.
Okay.
Yes.
That sounds cool.
Thank
you.
you.
I know you've been a big proponent of health for restaurant workers through yoga. And it's funny. It's like one time I joked because I sell U-Wine as well in my day job, and I've come there and I joked about the back swing thing, and I was like, so you guys just get on that, and you're like, actually we do, because it helps during service. So that kind of fits into
you have
the
a
mold.
Yoga swing at
Scott has one of those inversion tables.
Yeah, inversion tables.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's saved my back.
I bet.
Yeah, and then and Nana's Nana Steak and Barber Shield all have yoga passes for all of their employees.
Yoga company or something?
Global Breath. So we partner. All of those businesses partner with Global Breath, which is a local yoga studio in downtown Durham. It's a really amazing studio. They do a lot with the local community, and they do a lot of outreach as well in third world countries. And they build schools, and they do all kinds of really amazing things. Anyway, each one of the businesses provides free yoga for all employees.
That's really cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
I like you providing so many things. we like to provide things
Yes,
for
we
our
do.
guests of the podcast. It's a new feature on the podcast, and Matt, it's right there in the bag with Michael's English muffins on the label. But this is our swag bag from some pretty amazing people in the business. So, for one, I threw a hat in there. I think maybe that's Scott. That might be yours.
Yeah, that one's definitely his.
The shirt is your size, Aubrey. It's ladies' size.
Oh, thank you.
Which most of the time people did branded shirts are always like, here's an extra large, double extra large. Thanks, that's a great night.
These muffins smell amazeballs.
So those are amazeballs. They're
Yeah.
Michael's English muffins, and if you haven't had one yet, you're going to blow your mind.
Thank you guys. It's awesome. They smell amazing.
That's from a previous guest on the show, Annabelle Commissar. Her father, Michael Commissar, ran the Maisonette in Cincinnati for 41 years as a 5-star restaurant. She knows her shit.
Yeah.
And she just opened up her own brick
You
and
might
mortar
know her.
spot.
She used to work for Sour Grapes, Annabelle.
Oh,
And,
yes,
she
yes,
sold
okay.
wine.
Cooler wine coolers from thanks to Kellogg Selections and Ramona Wine Coolers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Jordan Salcido's project.
Very
so
cool.
Those are refreshing on a nice day.
And lastly, there's a private note written to you by Jeremy of 42 and Lawrence from the coffee of 42 and Lawrence and Larry's Beans. It's in there. They do roasting of they roast everything all the time, and they sent you a private note that is for you.
Everybody likes Larry's Beans.
Right, they do.
That's right.
But they, knowing the cuisine of Nana's and all, they decided to give you a blend that was more reminiscent to the flavors of the place. So
That's- If
you wanna
yeah,
say
and
that.
Social House Vodka coming out of Kinston also donated their.
I mean, Kinston.
They're building that city up to something that's like destination spot. I mean, it's really cool now. So get out to Kinston. That's a fun
Oh,
time.
Yeah,
we haven't done that.
Yeah, we haven't driven out there.
We've wanted to. It just never worked out.
Awesome.
Enjoy it. That's for yourselves.
so
at the house.
much.
Thank you to all the people that, all the businesses that do donate for the swag bag. It's fun, and we love working with them, and we love saying their names on the show because they are really cool. It's the lifeblood of the NCFMB.
Thank you. Yeah, we always talk about going out there with Ben and Karen and staying the night at the bed and breakfast, and
Yeah.
we talked about doing that with Don and Wendy and Ben
That
and
was a
Karen.
little unpredictable for a while.
If only
anyone
you
listen-
could see my face when he said that.
Yeah.
Anyone listening, if you're into it, let us know on social media because it's a thought we've been tossing around about doing a Kinston weekend where we go out, we eat at Chef and the Farmer, we go to Boiler Room, we go to Mother Earth Brewing and Distillery, we go to Social House, and maybe we just go out to a couple farms and see what's going on. Take a chartered bus out there, stay the night at one of Stephen Hill's places, make it fun, make it an NCF&B weekend or so, and we're getting nodding heads over here. So the Howells are going to be on the
Yeah,
bus.
that sounds fun.
So if you want us to do that, hit us up on Instagram and let
Yeah.
us know. Yes, I'd be in, and if we get enough response, we'll make it happen.
That sounds fun.
Matt, what else you got?
Guys, your story is inspirational, but you're going to have to come back because there's so much that we didn't even get
We'd
into,
love to.
even as thorough as this episode was, and we didn't even talk wine and pairing and
Oh,
that
I
whole
know.
thing.
I didn't even get to talk. I became a sommelier at like 21. That was the earliest, Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about that. You're one of the most respected wine professionals in the region as well, on top of everything else that you do. So,
wow.
And the other thing that I was going to say is I know that there's going to be other exciting projects. Someday it'll go beyond Durham. You've spawned so many people. No,
No,
he's
we're
shaking
done.
his head no, but you've said you're famously quoted as saying, I will never do many times that has happened. So
Yeah.
I've got a little something brewing.
nice. Well, you'll have to let us
But
know.
I can't talk to you
The
about
bathroom's
it
right over there.
Well, I tell you what, I did look at a project the other day, and it's a music venue type project where you'll have a couple of food concepts in there, and we just looked at it, but it's pretty exciting, because Asheville, you go there and down on the river, there's a million, there's all these music venues now that weren't there. Durham has to have that in order to have. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just who does
Build
it.
it and they will play.
It's just who does it. That's all. If you're not
So a
offering,
music venue with good food, like food vendors kind of thing.
absolutely. And
Sounds
one of those
awesome.
things where you do the beer thing and you make the cooler of the back bar and it just pops all the kegs out. It's a self-service thing. I will never Ooh, I said that word. I'll never open a restaurant that has a waiter again.
Yeah, which means it's going to happen.
That'll never happen.
They're called servers now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Whatever they're called.
Well,
Matt, get us out of here.
yeah, well, guys, again, it's really great to meet you, hear your story, and see what's next. So for all you out there, go to Nana Steak, go to Nana's, and please, I'm telling you all, go to Nana Taco, and you will thank me, and you will eat and drink very merrily.
Guests of the NCF&B podcast receive a swag bag including gifts from these rockstar North Carolina producers: Larry's Beans and 42 and Lawrence, Social House Vodka, and Michael's English Muffins. And we'll be at Triangle Wine Company in Cary, Saturday, March 3rd, to hack your cocktail party. Let us show you some of our tricks of pairing food and wine and make your own cocktails in 3 easy steps. Check our website, ncfbpodcast.com, for details. Don't miss it. Join us next week when we cover the Triangle Wine Experience. That's next time, right here on the NCF&B Podcast. Good night, everybody.